Students, today we shall see section 2 of unit 1, understanding yourselves. Perceptual errors. The first reason why we make perceptual error is that we are influenced by the most obvious. Now what does it mean, being influenced by most obvious? If we observe our own classmate coming late to the class, maybe for 2 to 3 days, immediately we cling to negative impression that our classmate is not punctual. If we see the classmate coming on time, that is, we change it to a positive one until it is definitely proved wrong. Another perceptual error is our perceptions are selective. It said one of the surgeon's general warning about the hazards of cigarette smoking. The more based each individual's attitude was towards smoking and the number of cigarettes smoked each day, the less convinced he or she was that an actual link had been established between smoking and lung cancer. Third perceptual error, we interpret within the limitations of our experiences. Now in one of the study, some children, we can say it was found that poor children saw the coins as physically larger than they did than the rich children. Now, if you presume the greater value of the coins to the poor children influenced their perceptual mechanism and they amplified the sizes. Another example, that some subjects were deprived of food for varying length of time. And when some pictures were shown to them, these blurred pictures of food related or house related objects was perceived by those subjects. Now how to improve your perception accuracy? First, you have to keep a perception check. In perception check, you should describe what you perceive to be the other person's inner state in order to check whether you do understand what he or she feels. Second, use metacommunication. Metacommunication is communication about communication. So one example, wife says to her husband, "It might be just my perception, but I feel that we communicate little nowadays. Would it be better if you sit down and talk about it one of these days?" So this is an example of metacommunication. Means you have to communicate about what you have said. So if we make statements about the progress of communication or comment on the inadequacies of communication, it might help us. Third one, show empathy. Tolerance of the cultural differences is based on shared understanding, goodwill, and common positive goal for the people of groups involved. And this understanding is called empathy. It means you have to put aside one's personal and cultural perspective of a situation and assume an alternative perspective. Example, you need to have some skills to observe this. You have to be open-minded. We need to suspend judgment and follow new information and ideas that come in. So you should keep no room for misconceptions. Imagination, imagine how the person feels. We may or may not agree with his or his position, but we should understand and appreciate the value of their experience. Another skill to practice empathy is sincerity. You should have a sincere desire to understand and appreciate the position of another person. So, practicing empathy is psychologically and emotionally demanding. You should have interpersonal skill, but more than that, it's necessary for effective cross-cultural communication. Understanding self-concept. Our communication is immensely affected by our self-concept. A simple definition of self-concept means to understand oneself. Who am I? What do others think of me? What do I think others think of me? Self-concept, that organization of qualities which an individual attributes to his or her own self. Now, how to understand self-concept? Understand your needs and wants. Most of us value fundamentals such as comfortable life, intellectual growth, happiness, freedom, love, friendship. Now, these are called terminal values. By listing terminal values appropriately for you, arrange them in the order of importance. Another reason is identity. Crucial to your identity are the qualities we have to value and use in our daily interaction. The qualities like honesty, integrity, ambition, independence, optimism, or caring. Now, these all are instrumental values. But since these are values we carry out in our behavior, they are directly the part of a self-concept. But because self-concept is made up of how you see yourself and how others see you, you have to learn to identify yourself. Next one, attitudes and preferences. Now, attitudes are formed from beliefs. We have attitudes about objects, about people, about situations. If you wish to be more aware of your attitude, you can consider what you like and dislike and the reasons for your like and dislike. Beliefs. We have thousands of beliefs and we can never list all of them. Our beliefs are, however, arranged in a system, primitive or core beliefs. Authority beliefs, derived beliefs and consequential beliefs. Now, what are core beliefs? Core beliefs are the basics of a personality. Now, these beliefs may be wrong, but are very difficult to change. We believe that they are a part of a personality, and when they are proved to be incorrect, we feel as if our identity is threatened. Johari model, the Johari window model. The Johari window model is a simple and useful tool for illustrating and improving self-awareness, mutual understanding between individuals within a group. The model can also be used to access and improve a group relationship with other groups. It was developed by American psychologists Joseph Luft and Harry Ingham in 1950s while researching group dynamics. Today, the Johari window model is especially relevant due to modern emphasis on an influence of soft skills behavior, empathy, cooperation, intergroup development, and interpersonal development. Now, the four panels of this window you can see in the figure, they represent the following. The open area represents the part of a personality. attitude, behavior, motivation, values, and way of life of which we are aware and which is known to others. We move within this area with confidence. This window is related to a well-developed positive relationship. So the relationship has developed well and we have more trust in others. Another area is the hidden area. It's our own hidden area. It contains information that we wish to keep secret. We never disclose it to others. It is perfectly normal when you have developed a new relationship. Sometimes we retain information to ourselves, but due to lack of confidence, we are scared. So the degree to which we share ourselves with others or we disclose it to others is the degree to which we can be known to others. So in this type of relationship, a person will deliberately hide a lot about oneself. Maybe because of lack of trust, because of shyness, or because the person has a lot of secrets. The next area is the blind area. Now, blind area represent things about ourselves which we know, but that others can see more clearly. When others say what they see, means they give a feedback about you in a supportive, responsible way, we are able to hear it. In that way, we are able to test the reality of who we are and we can grow. So here the individual's ego or pride prevents him or her to see own weakness. It is also possible that a lack of confidence prevents us from seeing our own strengths. The next not known to oneself is unknown part. Now this unknown quadrant represents that part of the personality which we even have not explored completely. We are more rich and complex than we and others know. But from time to time, something happens. Something is felt, heard, dreamed. Something from our unconsciousness is revealed. We know what we have seen or never known before. So in this style, others know very little about us. This is normal in a new relationship, but this should change as the relationships develops further. Finally, it is important to realize that one's self-concept is not static. It always keeps on changing. It is in our control to change our self-concept. So, I'll list following steps to improve your self-concept. Have realistic expectations. Begin with the end in mind. Write a mission statement. Recognize your own strength and weakness. Accept change as the only constant in life.